is Ed Schafer today, sitting in on the Common Sense Club. I'm the office boy here. Our chairman, Scott Hennon, is flying off to somewhere, parts unknown, but we're glad to be with you here today on a great North Dakota day and a great day in America. Joining us is a great American patriot, Rick Santorum. Senator Santorum, welcome to the Common Sense Club.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you. It's great talking to my friends in North Dakota. I've been doing that for many years on Scott's show, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you were close to us last night. You were in Laverne, Minnesota.
Yes.
Scott Hennon used to live in Laverne, Minnesota.
Oh, so, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we jam-packed the Palace Theater. We were supposed to do an event at the Pizza Ranch right next door, and we had way too many people say they were coming, so we filled up about a 500-seat theater and had standing room only there. It was a wonderful night.
But did they still get to get the pizza?
Yeah, we went next door and had pizza afterwards. Okay. Had about 100 or so come next door and have pizza with us, so we had a good night.
We wanted to make sure about the important stuff.
Absolutely.
Matt, are you? I thought it was pretty interesting, your contact with Minnesota and your wanting to buy America with your sweater vests. Couldn't find them and end up in Minnesota.
We did. In fact, I wore the sweater vest last night, the one that was made in Bemidji, which is up in northern Minnesota, and we're anxious to get back to Minnesota sometime this week, and we're planning a trip up to the woolen mill up there so we can see how those sweater vests are made and talk about made in America manufacturing again.
Well, good for you. Those are important words, and we on the Common Sense Club sure appreciate that, and I know our listeners do too. We have been talking this morning on the Common Sense Club about some of the negative advertising that's going on out there. Your colleagues out there in the presidential race are beating each other up pretty good. Is there a line between what's truth and what's personal, and what's history, and what is personal attack? Those kinds of things. You've been trying to play peacemaker there a little bit. How's that going?
Well, my feeling is it just shows the weakness of the two candidates that they persistently talk about these personal issues and not substantive issues. And the reason they're not talking about the big substantive issues is, frankly, because they don't disagree that much. As much as Newt would like to convince everybody that he's the conservative out there, and in fact, he has a very similar record when it comes to the major issues of the day that are going to be the major issues that we're going to be competing with Barack Obama on. If you look at health care, for example, Speaker Gingrich has supported a government mandate that everybody buy insurance at a national level and has done so for 20 years, which is the core of Obamacare and is something that, as you know, in the state of Massachusetts, Governor Romney supported when he developed Romneycare, which, the more I study Romneycare and the more I look at Obamacare, you really can't tell very much difference between the two of them. As I went after Governor Romney, and trust me, I'm not done. There's a lot more in common, and there's a lot of things that Governor Romney is saying with respect to Romneycare that simply are not true. And we're gonna have it out. You will see how weak Governor Romney will be in taking on the most important issue in this election, which is Obamacare, the huge cost that it's imposing on our economy, the huge grab of freedom, and the huge expansion of government. And Governor Romney did the exact same thing at the state level. So those two can't talk about health care, so they're talking about personal things instead of the major issues of the day.
Mm-hmm. And is there a way, Senator Santorum, that we can shape the conversation into policies and direction, or is it so competitive that you have to kind of knock the other candidate down a little bit to get your voice be heard?
Well, I've chosen not to do that. I've had many opportunities from the press every day to make a comment on some comment that one of them made, or criticizing them for their business dealings in either outside of government in the case of Newt or in Bain Capital, and I've just said, as I said in the debate the other night, I concede the fact, and it's a good thing in my opinion, that Mitt Romney made a lot of money and did well in the private sector, and unless he did something illegal or blatantly unethical, let's move on. And the same thing with Newt. Newt didn't do anything that I could see that's unethical, and he may have showed poor judgment, but that's okay. Bring it up, move on. Instead of keep bringing the debate and everything back to these sideshow issues. And instead of talking about the big issues, and maybe they're doing it because they don't see an advantage in front of Republican voters talking about their record and what and how it doesn't square with the plans they say they'll do when they're president.
You were in Minnesota last night, sister state here, neighbors, and Laverne's kind of on the edge of the Red River Valley, which is one of the most productive agriculture arenas in the whole world, actually. I've been always impressed with Pennsylvania, your home state. I used to live in New Jersey, right across the border from Bucks County. I'm now working on a project. I get out to Pennsylvania probably once a month on various projects. And I find it a lot like North Dakota. It's a lot of wide open spaces, big farm country, agriculture production, agriculture and energy, big drivers of the economy. One of the things that came up the other day in your recent debate was the sugar subsidy program. And, of course, that's important to us here in the Red River Valley with our sugar beet crops. But, the broader picture of agriculture subsidies. Is there a place for agriculture subsidies? Do they have to go by the wayside because of the financial problems that we've created in our country? Where are you in your policy and thought about proper safety net programs for agriculture?
Well, my feeling is that, and I had this feeling when I was on the Ag Committee. I was the first senator from Pennsylvania on the Agriculture Committee in 100 years. Even though we have a lot of agriculture in Pennsylvania, we also have big cities, manufacturing, and so and that's where most of the money and votes are, and so that's where most of the senators ended up going on those committees. I was very concerned and continue to be concerned about agriculture in rural America, and so I got involved in those issues as a United States senator. Here's my feeling on the agriculture subsidies. I think anytime the government is dictating or subsidizing something, you distort the marketplace, and it's not good for us to be competitive, and it's not good for us overall. I believe that what we really need are good, solid risk management programs, and that's in a sense what these ag subsidies were intended to do, to try to soften the blows of price fluctuations and weather and things like that. We've been moving, as you know, agriculture has already been moving toward better risk management tools, and crop insurance is obviously, forward contracting, all these types of things that help farmers be able to deal with the, which clearly a difficulty in dealing with factors beyond what most businesses have to deal with, which, of course, is weather and other types of natural disasters. So what I've always supported is, yes, government can and should help create a marketplace and to the extent necessary, potentially even help subsidize to some degree the marketplace in risk management programs, but not in straight-out subsidies for, and in some cases protectionist subsidies for particular crops. I don't think that's in the best interest of our country. We've got all sorts of competitive advantages in agriculture in America, and we don't need to be picking out individual crops and saying, well, we're going to help them vis-a-vis some other crop when all it does is drive up the cost of taxpayers and then drive up the cost of the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Senator Rick Santorum here with us on the Common Sense Club. We just have a couple of minutes left, Senator. The Washington Post said they think you ought to leave the race because of your sick daughter. We at the Common Sense Club really just would like to know, how is your daughter?
Well, it's sort of sad the Washington Post doesn't understand. My daughter had pneumonia. When one of your kids gets sick, you don't leave the race. Your children get sick, and you fight through it. And she did fight through it, and she's on the mend, and she's doing great. She should be out of the hospital in a day or two.